Big to hi-fi, big to hi-fi.
What is going on? What is going on? Where is my... What is going on? What is going on? Mad thing. No, I haven't read the recent speech by Elon. Is because what is going on? I'm experiencing what is going on? Mad thing. I'm experiencing something. No, I haven't read the recent speech by Elon. Is because what is going on? I'm experiencing what is going on? Mad thing. Oh, I know what it is. I'm experiencing. No, I haven't read the recent. Oh my God. I never realised I had this because I've got these headphones on. That was horrendous. Morning, everyone. I'm all over the place right now. I thought I'll be all nice and organised, and then I just started hearing all this noise, and I was like, "What is going on? What's happening with that?" Was everyone else hearing that as well? That was horrific. The perils of a feedback loop. I'm going to see Darren's show today with Gavin Bruce, so that'll be interesting. Looking forward to that. That's on my Twitter feed now. Trauma industrial complex. I know that he was wanting to talk about trauma, and he's shifted a bit today apparently to take into account the madness that's going on, which seems like a good decision. He's talking to Gavin Bruce, who's working class academic, kind of Marxist dude, very interesting guy. I'm just going to play a wee tune. I wanted to start with a nice... I was all nostalgic because I was... can everyone hear me? That was horrendous. I was like, why can I hear that all coming back? But it was coming out of this speaker over here, because I had my headphones on. I never realised. I was like, no danger, man. But what I need to do then is... see all this stuff, man. Monitor and output. That should work. I'm gonna play this track because I wanted to listen to it, because I've not heard it for years, and my mate Johnny Big Toe mixed it. I think I just took it away from the. I thought I was at the races, but I'm not at the races. But I'll get at the races. I'll get at the races shortly, right? But I'm going to play this track. It was a mix that Johnny Big Toe made years ago. Phoenix Henry. Right. I'll be back in a minute. See, I'm just testing if folk are paying attention. I'm off to an absolute flyer. I've been here for 10 minutes. I'm no muted now though. I'm a hi Leslie, hi Doreen, hi Sky Blue. I can't see who else is there. Well, there we go. Mentalness. I was like, right, I'll go and get a coffee. I was like, right, I got that all figured out. I'll go and get a coffee. Chaos. Chaos ensues. But we're back here. Oh, do you know what else I've realised now? Like, I've literally binned it. Like, I have binned it. It's official. That's how much I've binned it. That's how much I've binned it. I never even had I never even had my mic plugged in. Right. I'm going to go and check into the Royal Ed after this because I need a lie down, I think. Bloody hell. The perils of live broadcasting. No wonder all these years I just filmed everything and edited it, like, you know what I mean? I was like, because you're just set for madness. Right, morning everybody. John White, look at the state of these two. They are victims as much as they are perpetrators, left with nothing in life apart from their hate. They are the lumpen product of a system that hates them as much as they love their country. I'll wager they got a picture of the late Queen on their wall and consider themselves patriots. If only they knew how much their country despises them. The ruling class has nothing to fear at a time when it should be quaking in its fucking boots. Married racist couple who attacked Kurdish man with a metal pole screaming, "Go back to your country," are jailed. Well, I suppose it's probably a pretty accurate description by John there. I didn't like to judge people particularly on how they look. You know, I've never been one. I've never been into comedy that's like that sort of vibe where it's just like, oh look, this person looks like something, or that kind of thing. I've always found that, but you know what I mean. But I'm not going to say anything. But that doesn't mean I'm not thinking anything. They're two different things altogether. What we say and what we think. One can definitely get you in trouble. Although where we seem to be going in our society and culture, it'll not be fucking long before both of them will get you in trouble, and everyone will know. Because our thoughts will have to be our thoughts will be censored or made public, or will be held accountable for our thoughts, right? That's where we're going. The thought police are upon us. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go and see Darren's thing later this afternoon in the festival. The other thing I want to see in the festival is Mark Hanna's play, Athens of the North, which is on at the Hibs Club, which I'm sure will be very good. I don't know what I was replying to there. What did somebody say to me? Somebody says, have you read I never read Orban's speech. Maybe you can just tell me what's going on. The whole world, we're heading to war, man. We're heading to some complete chaotic conflict. Iran's going to imminently retaliate to Israel, which is going to be a bit mental. Like I was saying yesterday, you know what I mean, this these things are connected. All of this chaos that's erupting here, although it was always on the cards at some point, somewhere or other, how it was going to emerge was never particularly we never knew exactly when it would emerge, how. But the Israelis are definitely agitating things with these shit stirrers like Tommy Robinson and the like. Told you I can't do a Brummy. Can't do a Brummy accent. There was a time, Birmingham. I used to be able to do a Birmingham accent. I've never really. It's one city in the UK that I haven't spent much time in at all. Is Birmingham. I was in Birmingham. I've only been in Birmingham, I think, twice, particularly. For some reason, I've never found myself in Birmingham. What's going on here then? This is a sort of more chaos on the streets. Tommy talking pish. And shite begat shite. I see hooligans and like, oh, fucking like. It's an interesting time, isn't it? It's a time laden with opportunists, like, you know what I mean? And everybody, it's kind of like, right, you know, everybody's heading east for my first Ed Fringe show with Bram Gibbons, Weaponizer, The Darkest Timeline to keep me. I keep saying this is a great book, you should buy it. Bram's book is really good. I haven't found a minute to finish it, but I will. How did the cops catch you? Right, okay, you wheeled you wheeled a burning bin. Shall we listen to the kid?
Get on!
Go
on!
Wheeled a burning bin into the cops and then they arrested you. It does seem like it does seem like a pretty kind of like, you know, yeah, explaining how you got nicked, like, you know. Let's read this stuff in a second. I'll read that in a second. Hold on. It's a big speech, but it's good. He ties everything going on together. Too long to summarise here. There is a bit of a vibe. It's almost like, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but it's like we are kind of overwhelmed with information now. And the heterogeneity of which there's a word that I like to use, the heterogeneity, which is a sort of like a succession of different things, a mixture of all different things. It's this mixture of material and content. It stimulates us, it provokes us in different ways, you know. I tell you something I've been doing a lot lately, which is quite an unusual thing for me, is I've been doing I was doing some hypnotherapy with a really good hypnotherapist for a while, which I want to get back to soon. And I got into this guided meditation thing, and then so when I haven't been doing that hypnotherapy, I've just been doing like guided meditations, because it's like sometimes in the morning and you're like, I've woke up and I've been like, man, it's like everything's mental. So you kind of you get on that mode with some spiritual vibe and you're like, actually it's all right. You just kind of sort of cleanse yourself of this madness that we're now kind of. But it's maybe that's what makes this. I haven't really given this format a lot of thought, but I know that there's something quite intriguing about it. I've seen a lot of the young team, they play computer games and people just watch them playing computer games and stuff. And perhaps there's some similar sort of thing with this scrolling, this mad information sphere of like X or something, that perhaps it's better done as a collective pursuit. Clearing the energy, yes, exactly, you know. I tell you something funny, right? I do kind of remark on this. And before I took DMT, right, when I was all through my sort of young adulthood and into my into my what do you call it again? What's like not adolescence or whatever, but you know, like as a younger man, and you know, for a long time, I was a very militant atheist, and I was a very dismissive, like, you know, I was very hostile to people who were into sort of holistic stuff and spiritual stuff and that. I was to be honest, I was a fucking arsehole, right? I was a complete prick to people like that. And I'd be really kind of like facetious and like, you know, discursive and dismissive and arrogant to folk that were on those modes, you know? And then I took DMT and it licked me. I took DMT and I was like, right, fuck, I've got this completely wrong. And I did that thing that I think a lot of people that when they've had like, see, it's coming on, it's probably coming on for about 10 years or something. I was still drinking back then. And so it was like, I don't know, I kind of had this, thing that I think a lot of people that do it have that thing where they're kind of, they have this process of internal dialogue or discussion where you're going, right, is this simply some utterly peculiar biochemical reaction in my scone, or is there something else going on here that's altogether different? And I think pretty much every single person, in fact every single person I know who has imbibed with it arrives at the same conclusion eventually, which is like, nah, this is not, this ain't something going on in your scone, like, you know? This is not a quirk of chemicals, right? And once you actually sort of go, right, okay, then you're like, and then it's interesting because you do realise that the kind of material reductiveness of scientific analysis and stuff is incredibly stale. And then you know, the sun's shining now, and you start getting into it like, oh, check all the animals and that in the world, and the birds and the trees and the fucking, like, all the rest of it, you know what I mean? And you start really you start just realising that, like, you know, you're a living being. Yes, that will. Leslie says, I was an atheist. Yeah, that will do it. It definitely will. And that's my, you know, like a lot of folk, I think that it's almost like the power of psychedelics and what there's a reason why it was they were so suppressed by the establishment universally, that everywhere, you know. McKenna was obviously all over this, you know. But it almost feels like as we kind of reach this kind of, as we hurtle towards the eschaton or whatever, or as we sort of find ourselves in these times of increasing chaos and madness and all the rest of it, it's like really, you know, it may be that the plant medicines are pretty much the only potential point of salvation that we have as a society and culture. And what we need to do is find ways to get people to dispense with these stigmas that exist. These stigmas are put in place by the same establishment that are exploiting us and destroying our planet, really, you know? So it's like, why we need to start to question these narratives. And it is happening, and bizarrely enough, actually, one thing I've sort of observed, that inevitably, because capital will seek to extract profit from anything, right? That's as much as I'm an anti-capitalist, I'm also, as Marx was or whatever, you know, I'm not comparing myself to Marx particularly, but I'm just saying that Marx didn't hate capital, he was admired it, and as do I. I'm fascinated by it. It's utterly mesmerising. It's the most thing, it's mental, right? It's beyond everything that's around us, you know, there's all our advances, all our technology, all you know, yes, it exploits and carves the planet into pieces, but it also creates all this crazy stuff, you know? And the question of the morality of capital is indifferent. It doesn't have any morality. So there's a responsibility for those that hold the reins of capital. That's really the key point, you know. But the thing I was thinking about was saying that is like that now. Strangely, it's actually sections of capital that are developing and beginning to bring forward the psychedelic industry, for example, because there is an industry there, and that's an interesting thing, that we're starting to see certain companies and stuff, like, you know, try to commercialise it, you know. And whilst I think that might have some issues, I just think the more people kind of get down with it and try to explore that side of boundary dissolving exploration of the inner landscape and where that might take you, I think that's important for our entire society and culture. Anyway, there's my hello me, hi Catherine. I totally get that, BPP, thank you. Yeah, we're free the weed, discontent guided. You didn't want me to be giving you a guided meditation, like, you know. It's true though, like, you know. But maybe Twitter is now or X is so toxic and so crazy, or maybe social media is so crazy that it actually, maybe this is like going to become some sort of a support group where we have to come together collectively to kind of peer inside and see what mentalness is there. Because it is particularly Raj, like, you know. It seems to be, is it just me, or does it seem to be getting more mental? To me, it seems to be getting more mental. Something that we have to oppose off the bat, though, is this explosion of racism that's emerging, you know. I think we can't. I think the thing is this, right? See, when you see these atrocities that Israel is responsible for, and we're seeing these poor people, you know, essentially some of the poorest people on the planet being massacred and annihilated, and we're watching these human beings being destroyed. And you know, if you're conscious, if you're empathic in some way or other, you can't not be deeply affected by how many more children do you need to see destroyed? How many more families? Did you ever think that you would live in an age where you would look at your phone and, you know, between looking at some fucking cat video where it's like, you know, fell off a fucking shelf or something and knocked a vase over, the next image you're going to see is some poor child with its head fucking removed from its body, or a grieving family, or people wailing in pain and misery because a advanced state is subjecting them to military fucking, you know, the ultimate kind of level of obliteration, full scale military assault, you know, from the skies. You know, I think this is like, I've lost my train of thought there, because as soon as I start thinking about that stuff, it fucks me up, to be honest. You know what I mean? But I think that's what I was saying about social media. This sense that we have this kind of hypocrisy going on, where we've got this, we know this is occurring, and we see the wanton disregard for human life. We elect plastic neoliberal politicians who are essentially complicit and offer their support to this. If we don't ask ourselves the questions as a society, then, you know, we are failing ourselves at that level. You know, if you participate in that democratic process, then on some level you're complicit. You know, and that's why I'm absolutely. I wouldn't give one of these Labour politicians that have currently been elected the time of day. It disgusts me. It disgusts me that we have an elected, essentially a quasi-Zionist administration that are now in power, you know, that haven't condemned it, that haven't been able to condemn. Our country profits from this, right? So I think that we have this weird thing where you know, we've got these images being filtered into our consciousness. We see these things on our phones or what have you, and then if we share them, we get our accounts restricted and stuff, like, you know. So it's completely mental. It's completely bizarre, and it disgusts everyone. It disgusts us all. You know, it's horrific, like, you know. I'll stick to the weed edibles occasionally, so I'm far too scared of a bad trip. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like being scared of a bad trip. McKenna said, well, I think it's important to make that distinction between DMT. It does sit in a category all of its own, even beyond loads of mushrooms or whatever. DMT is definitely, like, I don't have a definitive answer on it, right? But it definitely, it's a miscategory. it's something else. It's on another. It's on, you know, it's on the ayahuasca realm, but it's kind of next level, isn't it? But Father McKenna, Terence McKenna, did say regularly, though, that he felt that people who went through life without experiencing, I get my account suspended at least in my view. That's a badge of honour, I have to agree. DMT, he did say that going through life without having a psychedelic experience was akin to going through life without getting your Nat King. So I don't know what I'm not sure I would want to have that experience. So worth thinking about anyway, right? What's this guy saying? The violence in England is about more than just racism. Kevin McKenna, I haven't read the article. Shall we read it together? The violence in England is about more than just racism. We live in a country where women can't gather to discuss politics without being harassed by male gender activists. There are still prominent people in public life who want to shut Catholic schools. On the money, as always. Violence in England. I need to read the full article. I can't just... Really, this is like... much of this is about the... It's a kind of battle for who controls narratives, really. Do you know what I mean? That's what a lot of this is when it comes to how the chattering classes or the commentariat want to. They always want to know how to, like, they want to have the reasons why something is a particular way. I don't particularly mean McKenna when I'm saying that, but I'm noticing there's a guy called Neil Mackay. He's like a Northern Irish journalist, but he lives in Scotland. He's lived in Scotland forever, and he writes for the Herald, and he's a crackpot, right? And he's blocked me on all my accounts, but people keep sending me his tweets, right? And he's mental, but he's one of these people that he wrote. I never read his article. He's a terrible writer, and he's a fool. He's a total fool. But he seems to have this kind of like this egotistical position on the sort of Scottish media field. People probably don't even know about him. Anytime I ever mention him, people don't know who he is. But he seems to have some. He's a Herald writer anyway. But I mean, people didn't really read newspapers much now, are they? Do they? But he's one of these people that. He's a prolific Twitter user, or a prolific X user, but he's continually. But he wants the platform controlled, and it's quite an interesting thing to see this, where there's these people that it's like, yeah, there's unsavoury voices and stuff there, but it's almost like they've lost the plot, because it's that sense of like they sense that their voice is being drowned out now, and that's really what it is. It really seems to be the that's what I deduce from it anyway. It seems to be a sort of like a rage of frustration that, you know, that nobody's really interested in what you've got to say, you know what I mean? He put up a post, somebody sent me yesterday, and he was saying that, I've written this article about X and I think it's being censored. I said, no, this fucking said, you know, so he was wanting everybody to, like, can you see this article? Like, what a rocket, man, you know what I mean? Nah, everyone can see it, you know what I mean? It's like just desperate stuff, you know? What are you saying? Where did you do DMT? I've done it a few times, but the truth of the matter is the first place I did, that was the bizarre thing. The first place I did it was more or less like a sort of crack den. It was like, I wasn't taking crack, but that's what it was. And I always remember it because it was like, aside from the main kind of aspect of the experience that I had, which was like incomprehensibly, you know, like, you know, paradigm shifting madness, as I was sort of coming out of the most phenomenal aspect of it, and I was in this really grotty pad, you know what I mean? It was like there was mice and stuff. Literally, there was mice running around the flat, and I remember that though. This was when I was like coming out of it. I remember I felt like I was on the forest floor, and I could see all these leaves and all these like roots, and you know, I was like completely connected to the natural environment, in the least natural environment that you could possibly want to be in. And it always kind of amused me, you know what I mean? I've always found that quite amusing, that in this kind of utterly, you know, decrepit fucking hole, I was actually momentarily sort of like in the bosom of nature's arms. What, you know, people call it a drug and stuff. It's like, what line of ching, right? Or what fucking, like, you know, what pint of pish is going to give you some sort of incomprehensibly profound connection to the planet, to the living environment, and plug you into the sort of collective consciousness of the universe. Like, I'm sorry, right, but there's no Albanian in the planet is going to fucking turn up at 3 o'clock in the morning and give you something that does that for 100 quid, like, you know what I mean? And the other thing that's common that you do have a sense of is, you know, if you have any kind of convey. I mean, one of the reasons I don't drink was pretty much you know, I had a very significant, you know, it was a very clear message that I should stop drinking. I did. That was nearly 10 years ago. My cat is called McKenna. If I had a cat, I would call it McKenna as well, actually, probably now. I had a wrap of TNT in my wallet for ages, gave it away at the end because my head just wasn't robust enough for it. I don't know, maybe it would do me good. I think it's a thing that you either do it or you don't, and you do it when it's the right time to do it. I genuinely believe people, I mean, people, this is what I'm saying, like, if I held myself now 10 or so years ago, like, I'd be like, what's the story with that teapot, man? You know what I mean? I'd be completely dismissive. I actually believe that it's sentient, even in its extracted form. I believe that the powder itself is, or the crystals are sentient. This is what I believe. You and your mouse could do the guided meditation. Craig Murray does a similar thing in reference to Neil Mackay, where he'll lose a lot of Twitter followers, or he'll notice a lack of engagement and he'll blame MI5 for suppressing him. 1,000,000% crazy hobo. It seems like a lot of high profile people used to being listened to feel like they're screaming at the void on Twitter, and that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is, that they had a period of, an extended period of kind of entitlement, especially in that time where, like I say, there was that kind of purge. Because people forget, between like 2014 onwards, up until about 2017, Twitter, I know I go on about this a bit, like, you know what I mean, but it was a really free platform, and you could get away with murder, you could do some crazy stuff, and nobody cared. But I think when it became, I think it's another sort of example of when people are wanting to commercialise a space because they want to sell stuff, or they want to turn it, they sort of want to marketise it. I think that was maybe a lot to do with it as well. But then, you know, what Musk has done with it, I'm away on a tangent today, yeah. I'm not bothered, I'm under no obligation. I barely drink now though, thinking of quitting. I don't enjoy it anymore when I drink. It's overrated. Liberty caps are cool, yeah. So this guy Chris Murray is the new MP. He's the guy that got Tommy Shepherd's seat, and I was like, he's just been parachuted in. Turns out he's Margaret Curran's son, so he's like the sort of equivalent of a sort of neoliberal nepo baby, basically, you know. And he's immediately he's one to watch, because he's just, in terms of just for being a sad narcissistic twat with, like, just, he's not really that interesting. He's a sort of a budding Alan Partridge, probably, you know what I mean? But you'll find that in the scale of global events where, you know, we've got riots on the streets, we've got genocide, we've got, you know, deteriorating social conditions, we've got fucking rocketing prices for basic amenities and all the rest of it. You've got these smug little placeholders who are just there to to be, they don't even need whipped, right? They'll never need whipped because they'll just do what they're told anyway. So they're just there to, like, you know, to ratify every policy and everything that goes through, put through the votes, you know. But in the meantime, they've got to make themselves feel important. So this guy's quite a funny one because he's obviously, you know, he's got a real ego about him. He takes pictures of himself. Well, they all do, don't you? What's he doing today? He's going to the theatre. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, and what is, like, you know, oh, a great day out, another great meeting. Everything's always great. Wonderful. What's wonderful? To be open. Wonderful. There you are. You're not. He's not from here though. He's a Ouija. I thought he was. I mean, I suppose it would be a big adventure. Like suddenly you're the representative of an area that you didn't care fuck all about. Lovely to pop into St Margaret's and there he is. Okay, there he is with it. So there's another example. There's the political clash, right? The guy that got ousted for the seat and the guy that's in the seat, apparently from opposing sides of the political spectrum, sitting and having a nice wee drink together. That's me having a drink with a guy. Wow. We disagree on some things, but we both want the best for this, because you don't want the best for this, because you want your fucking 80 grand plus your 130 grand expenses, and you want to fucking get another gig somewhere else if you have to fucking, you know, or stay there as long as you possibly can with an electorate that are too fucking apathetic to give a fuck, you know. Here he is taking pictures with himself. Here I am with myself. Here's me with me. Fucking hell. Anyway, this afternoon I asked fuck off, like, you know what I mean? Like, these people are enemies. Willful fire raising, right, here we go. Here's some, what's this? Midlothian crime. Police treat straight in retail park fire. So this is interesting because there's a sort of flurry of exceptionalism going on where the kind of bourgeois nationalist exceptionalists are convinced that none of this unsavoury behaviour could possibly happen in Scotland because there's no racists in Scotland and we're better than the English and all of this kind of stuff, which is patently ridiculous. But again, an example of who dominates Scottish media culture, the Scottish landscape, whether it's politics, media, newspapers and all the rest of it, you know, and it's all kind of just the middle classes. So, you know, I wouldn't like to see any violent action or unrest, but I sense that this idea that we're immune to it somehow or other is just utterly ridiculous, and I find it quite insulting as well, you know. Again, because it shows how out of touch these people are with how fucked everything is in our society. You know, something that pisses me off, right, is you know, the lack of real action on our drug deaths. You know, this is like an annual figure that we've got, you know, and we probably, it's, you know, I've lost people, we've all lost people, a lot of people have lost friends and loved ones now, and if you go into schemes and stuff, it's just normal, you know, it's normal that this is what happens, and that is just a travesty. That's a fucking indictment on this country. So these, you know, we might not have the kind of explosive kind of racial tensions built around kind of panics about immigrations and stuff like that, but we've got plenty of social problems that need addressed. And thus far, our Scottish establishment have done an incredible job of failing to address any of them adequately. So I'm not into these people's attitudes, like, you know. I mean, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Sometimes it's hard to concentrate when it's like, you know, you're maybe thinking of one thing, and it's just like it's a continual kind of like the outrage machine, like, you know. What does Scott Fitzpatrick say? Scott Fitzpatrick's a sharp guy. I don't actually know who he is. He's always just got some avatar thing. I think he's a plasterer, you know, but he's very politically astute. England is acting out on the streets and no more coherently on broadcast, print and social media. A whole spectrum of atavistic and inconsistent establishment narratives that scapegoat anyone but themselves for the real problems created by their fantasies and failure, right? You know. Right, okay. The UK is finished as a going concern, and I'm not impressed by the reactive assumptions of so-called Scottish nationalists whose intention seems no clearer and whose own self-serving narratives of inherent vice outside their own client base. No more interest in cause than their southern colleagues and rivals. Yeah, I think it was just saying similar to what I was just saying, really. You know what I mean? There's a lot of delusional thought going on, like, you know. I can't stand all this. Trumped up stuff about Muslims and immigrants and stuff. You know, it's really depressing. It's really depressing that we've got these kind of levels of rhetoric bubbling up. You know, it's really horrible. I think there's nothing I despise more than racism. I think racism is the worst thing, you know. It's just terrible. Main character inception mode. Deaths of despair where people are taking it out on themselves. Actually so sad. Yeah. There's definitely a kind of how would you put it? Yeah, there's a kind of futility. It's that thing. It's like the failure is political. The failure is absolutely political. Like, you know. I'm just going to go to VT for a minute, folks. I'll be back in a minute.
The only update show.
Lifeless, it's a hard ass. Do I get another spin? Do I get another spin? Do I get another spin? Another 9 days alive. Another 9 days alive. It's only a short time before I get wise. Another 9 days alive. Another 9 days alive. It's only a short time before I get wise.
Man fear, enough gal and gal in a bungle. Gal from.
Right, I'm back. I think that I am going to depart slightly earlier this morning. The truth be told, I'm not feeling X today. I think all this talk of psychedelics and whatnot has made me feel that I want to avoid, at least for one day, avoid the Elon's highway of hell, like, you know. It's just dipping into it sometimes is just like, it's raj, like, you know. It's I think that we're kind of Shepherd used to be Scottish Labour. Yes, but this is the thing, right? See, this is the thing about the political class, and I think that, you know, like I've run for election twice. I ran for election at Holyrood, and I ran for the council, right, which is very different things, right? But when I ran for election at Holyrood, the penny dropped for me, really. That's probably the best way to describe it. And I realised that this notion of the political class was a real thing. And the only people that aren't aware of this particularly are the electorate that still go out and participate in it. But the people that know it more than anyone else are the political class. It's like that old adage about you know, there's nobody is more aware that there isn't a God than a priest. But then obviously that, I'm not saying that there is a God, I'm just saying I'm not an atheist, but you know, in terms of the God of organised religion or otherwise, you know. So the political class are acutely aware of the fact that there is no difference and that they're all just at it. And it's basically like, you say you're like, you're in that camp, we're in this camp, but we all know that there's only one thing that we're interested in, and that's getting elected and getting into Parliament. So we've got a guaranteed income, we've got our expenses, and we go along and we play the game and we pretend that we've got some sort of differential ideology. But it's so clear now, it's so clear at this stage of the game in neoliberalism where we're at, you know. And I think that's the thing that, you know, you never hear. When have you ever heard, right, in the last 10, 20 odd years, a mainstream politician or any significant politician from any party talk about neoliberalism and talk about capitalism? The driving forces of which they are subject to in terms of their political ideology and what they adhere to. You will never see it happen. And you know, that's a very deliberate act, you know. Capital is determined for us not to talk about it, right? And I'm not saying that capital is in itself conscious or sentient. I'm not saying that exactly, although it's something that is worth consideration on some levels. But where we're at now with this homogenised political class, that you know, as I've said many times, it's like the electorate vote for their abusers, you know. And so we're too far down the line. We're too far down the line. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's attributed to a few people, isn't it? It's attributed to Fisher and Zizek and various people, but it's the phrase that it often comes back. Who will hold them to account? No one dares, because you will be far right, as told by Starmer and Murdoch Media. Yeah, that's the thing. It's the question is how do you mobilise? And my own position on this is simple, and I don't think it's essentially so as Badu or somebody would say, you know, I would imagine it's scientific, you know, or Sartre or someone would say it was scientific, which is that the only force, in my opinion, that can challenge capital is class consciousness. So unless we have a raised class consciousness amongst those that are the most disaffected and the most excluded and ostracised from society, where they can mobilise and politicise and start to gain some agency, we're just going to deteriorate further and further and further. And that's why the middle class electorate bear a huge responsibility for what's going on. Right, it's an hour of me slavering away. I'll return. I'm sure yesterday I said I'll come back and be a bit funnier tomorrow, but I'm not quite sure that's what's happened, because I got a wee bit confuddled at the start of this. But listen, it's been nice chatting away. Thanks to everybody who's joined me, and God willing, I'll return tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So have a lovely day, everybody. Over and out.